It's Wednesday, March 25th, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Taxi operators at the Grantley Adams International Airport feel the financial impact of COVID-19. When a Barbados Today team visited the Christchurch facility, there was a visible lull in activity, with operators holding out hope for some business. The operators say they were getting jobs last week, but the tide has changed tremendously this week as cancellations in both the airline and hotel sectors spiked as countries, including some in the Caribbean, closed their borders in a bid to stem the spread of the virus.
Things have been a little bit slow now. The flights are not coming anymore. American stopped service, JetBlue, and quite a few taxi people around, so obviously with the shortage of flights, it's going to be hard on everybody's, day-to-day living. So that's it for now, but you can only hope for the best, knowing that you ain't got control over these things.
It affected me a lot because we owe the business now. We ain't really getting no car washes, no nothing coming in, no nothing. And it affecting the car washers, all the car washers that wash out the airport, going out to the airport. So it affecting me.
It definitely will affect us a lot because due to the fact that we depend on tourists that come in through the airport, right? So it definitely will affect us a lot.
However, the operators gave the Mia Mottley government the thumbs up for its handling of the pandemic, saying the Prime Minister's decisions were in the country's best interest.
But honestly, I take off my hat to the Prime Minister and the Ministry for trying to save this country, because I don't know about people, but me for once, I am not taking it lightly. Look at the amount of people that died worldwide. It's sad, and I would take off my hat to her. I mean, not political, but being truthful, I can see what her intent and the ministry. So I give them thumbs up. I must commend them, and anybody who's criticizing, they're really listening to what they're trying to put in place to safeguard the country.
Well, I think the government is doing the best, right? I don't think she could do nothing, but she trained, and all we got to try to give her support, and we hope that we could come out of this thing, as one, but we can't put against one another. We got to stick together, and we have to give her as much support as we can give her.
Management of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital implements plans to meet the needs of its workers during COVID-19. The QEH Executive Chairman, Juliet Bino Sutherland, said staff-related measures are being put in place, including hazard allowance, accommodation for those working long hours, childcare services and counseling services, among other things.
We're also providing accommodation for people who are working in isolation centers who may not want to go home, who have agreed to do a double shift. We've provided accommodation for them with the courtesy of the University of the West Indies. The Medical Students Lounge has been made available that they can rest and recreate before going back on stage. We're providing a hazard allowance to staff, and we're working out those details. We're looking at the adequacy of our insurance cover. We're looking at child care. If we get into a national shutdown, our workforce is very feminine, and even for fathers as well. The ability, who may be single fathers, to come here is going to be contingent on the ability to have someone looking after your children, particularly young children. So we're in discussions at the national level seeking to ensure that staff can have a place that they can leave their children, because we will have staff not being able to work if they don't have someone to care for their children.
Bino Sutherland said employees must also play their part.
How we do business, we said to housekeeping, you have to bring your A game within the hospital in terms of cleanliness. We said to doctors who are writing lab requests, you have to fill out every aspect of the lab request form, because the staff in the lab department need to understand the samples that they are taking so that they can protect themselves should it be a COVID positive. So the hospital is an intimately linked organism where we are as strong as our weakest link. And I'm really, really very, very proud of the responses that we've gotten here at the hospital.
The Democratic Labour Party wants government to urgently create a survival line for entrepreneurs as well as micro, small and medium-sized businesses outside the banking system to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Ryan Walters, the DLP's spokesperson on business, believes such a move can be facilitated through fund access.
Given this large portfolio size, we need to ensure that this vulnerable group of business owners are not left to fend for themselves, given the fact that the gloomy economic environment is expected to prevail. It is only fair to extend the same courtesy acts of the commercial banks to this group of government clients and ensure that our entrepreneurs and small micro businesses do not die a sudden death. The DLP is recommending that fund access be given the immediate capital to implement a blanket overdraft facility for its members that will allow speedy access to cash as required. They should also immediately defer all loan payments due for the same 6-month period being considered by the banks. And finally, they should move swiftly to put a mechanism in place to fast-track existing small businesses who are currently not in the funds portfolio to be included in these initiatives.
RBC Royal Bank will temporarily close its Hastings Christchurch branch from Thursday in light of COVID-19. The bank said it will also temporarily close at least one branch in 3 other Caribbean countries, namely Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, and Grenada, as of today. Employees from those branches are being redeployed to other areas. The financial institution said it was also adjusting the hours and days of business at most other branches across the region to better promote social distancing while still remaining available for clients' immediate banking needs. Banking hours on Saturdays will also be temporarily suspended as of this weekend. The bank's head of Caribbean banking, Rob Johnston, said the tough but necessary decisions were being made not only to protect clients and employees, but to also help flatten the curve and reduce the spread of the coronavirus.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
To news from the region, Bermuda's tourism sector feels the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mike Sharp of Bermuda Broadcasting has been speaking with the acting chief executive officer of the Bermuda Tourism Association, Glenn Jones.
Virtually all hotels are closed, and job losses could climb well over 2,000, with the island on shutdown to prevent the further spread of the virus.
So it's stressful, obviously, but it pales in comparison to what some tourism workers are facing right now. We have 92% of our hotel inventory closed because of this pandemic. That means 1,900 people who would typically be working in our hospitality workforce who aren't working. We haven't even yet gotten to evaluate what it means for the retail and the restaurant sector, but we're working on that now. So, of course, it's been difficult in these past 2 weeks trying to lead and coordinate a response for the tourism industry.
Mr. Jones said that government's aid package for the unemployed is desperately needed, but that there is no time frame on when this pandemic is going to end.
That is really the hardest part of this. So while we're measuring, we have to also be preparing for a recovery. And right now, we are looking at several different scenarios. Is recovery June? Is recovery September? We're not sure, but we need to be prepared for both.
And finally, in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi imposed a national lockdown in an attempt to slow the spread of the coronavirus. The restrictions came into force at midnight Tuesday and will last 21 days. In a televised address, the Prime Minister also announced a total ban on people leaving home, even as he appealed for them not to panic. But crowds quickly mobbed stores in the capital Delhi and other cities. India has 536 cases and 10 deaths due to the coronavirus, but the Prime Minister and health experts warn that the nation of 1.3 billion people faces a tidal wave of infections if harsh steps are not taken. That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.